Hi, I'm Joe Scacciaferro, and this is On Location. All right, today I have somebody that I've known most of my career, and every time we get together, he's in another part of the industry, which is, as you've learned, that's indicative of how this industry works, and that's how you succeed. So he started film, he's been in camera, he's been AC, he's been studio, he's been television, he did network. I'm just going to keep going. He's done, I think now he's at a rental house. It's amazing. So welcome, Alex Aurichio.
Thank you.
Butchered. I tried, and you know how the names suck because my name's the worst, and I just butcher everybody else's because of that. So anyway, past the names. So let's start with where you're at now, and then we'll kind of do a flashback and move forward. So what are you doing right at the moment?
Right now, I'm a rental manager at Lux Lighting LLC. We're in Industry City in Brooklyn, in Sunset Park. We basically are more of a B2B, vendor-to-vendor type of rental house, although we do rent to, students and smaller productions and stuff like that. But mostly we supply larger rental houses with, fulfillment, basically. So if they need more of a certain type of light and they don't have it, we'll provide it because we have a ton of them. So that's basically the majority of our business. We deal with like several large rental houses and people like NBC Lighting and MBS and Insight. They're like the biggest ones around right now. So we basically, if they need like a couple of S360s, or they need like 20 S60s, or they need any number of large lights or lights that they don't normally carry, we'll provide them because we have a large stock of them.
I was fortunate enough, you showed me around, we walked through there. I was blown away at the tech of lighting now. I mean, I know lighting and it's just lighting, but when I was looking at this tech, I was like, oh my God. So I have two quick questions for you. One, how did you learn and keep up with this? And when did you, lighting, let's go through that. Just give me your lighting evolution.
Lighting is lighting. I mean, it's, the color temperatures are the same, whether it's tungsten or HMIs or LEDs. It's just learning the mechanics of it that's a little different. So with LED lighting, there's all different ranges that you can go. You can do color temperature, you can do RGB, you can do, hue and value, and, any number of ways you can adjust color, or, just your chroma or things like that. So there are a lot of different lights out there on the market. When they first came out, they were mostly all daylight. Then they started coming out with bicolor ones that were tungsten and daylight. And then the next generation from that was RGB, where they started coming out full color. So, like Arri was really the pioneer on that. And they came out with, like the Arri S60, which was like, the first big one on the market. Everybody had to have it. Nobody had it. So, we supply a lot of those. And when I first started working at Eastern Effects, when those started coming out, I started learning about the technology. And it's a little different. It's a little harder to learn just because there's so much technical stuff. But once you kind of get into it and start playing around with it, it's really not that hard. It's, it's like anything else. It's just once you get used to it, you can just deal with it.
Yeah, you said that so casually. No, it's not. It's not easy. You can get burned, and I'm telling you from experience, because the tech is the tech, and there's a lot more going on than before. I could flip a light, focus a couple of barn doors, and I was good to go. I had Pepper 650s, 1Ks. Okay, I know what they all do, and then now, no, I'll unpack something on a set and go, I don't even know how to turn this thing on. So
it can be a little intimidating.
Yeah, and then like you said, you still have to have the basics. There's a whole school of lighting. I mean, it's not just turn on a light. and get light. There's a lot to it, a big creative part of it. So let's go backwards a little bit. So you came out as a film major, is that correct?
Yeah, I was a film major at Pratt Institute. I graduated in 1982. I started working while I was at school. I started, making short films. I did my first, point of purchase commercial film when I was in college still. And then after that, I started just, shooting narrative films for other students. And probably by the time I got out of school, I had already shot like 10 films in 16 millimeters. So, and
Wow.
then I kept doing it afterwards too for a few years while I was still making connections. And I started working as an assistant cameraman as well. I worked on a really big country music documentary while I was, in my senior year. I went away for about like a couple of months driving around the South with a film crew and shooting country music people and, meeting like a lot of legends, so that was a lot of fun and I got credit for that. And so I kind of did my own form of work study while I was at school. I just kind of kept getting jobs and I would get credit for them. And by the time I was graduated, I kind of had already a lot of contacts.
You're flying over something that's not as easy as you just made it sound. I got a lot of jobs. I was out there doing that. Uh, how did that happen? Is it like, where did you make those connections to get those jobs, to even know those jobs existed?
Right. Well, I had some teachers who were in the business, so they kind of connected me with people. And then there were other students who I knew who had just graduated or who were out of school and working. So they were involved in NABIT 15 at the time. So I just kind of started hanging out with them and working on projects as for free on some things and just interning. And I interned at Silver Cup Studios for about a year in 1983, about a year after I got out of school. I also went to the international film workshops up in Maine, like right after, like almost a day after I graduated. I went up there and took like camera lighting and Steadicam workshops over the summer. So I made a lot of contacts there and just got connected with people. So it's really just, going out and meeting people. I mean, some contacts I just met in a bar, the first film I ever did was like Sail Rider Summer. It was like a point of purchase film for a windsurfing company. And I literally just met these guys in a bar and we started talking and they were like, oh, come down and shoot. We're going to be down on the beach. And it was a new thing. So I just got a camera from school and I went and started shooting. And then I met their boss and, they said, well, we need a film for, point of purchase. And so, oh, I can do that. So put it together for them and, it took a while and I was learning while I did it. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, there's the buzzword. Yeah, I can do that. That's going to be on my tombstone. I swear. I
Make it
just
so you make it.
Yeah, you just say, yeah, I can do that. Whatever it is, yeah, I can do that. You better have something behind you that you can figure out how to do it. But yeah, so a lot of what you just said is one of the keys. Is you got to meet people. You know that the contacts. You have to have those connections. Otherwise, you stagnate real fast and keep talking the talk all the way through. So once you moved from that, give me another milestone after shooting some of those shorts and films and docs.
Well, I did other things too. I mean, I worked for Sports Illustrated as a lighting assistant because my brother-in-law at the time was a Sports Illustrated photographer, so he got into there, and I would be lighting hockey arenas and things for still photography because I had a still photography background when I came into film. So it was, kind of back and forth between those things for a while. But yeah, I just kind of just kept looking for more and more work. I mean, it was anything that came along. I worked on a lot of music videos back in the 80s when they were just first starting to, appear on the scene. So, and I had a lot of teachers who were professionals in the business. So they kind of hooked me up as well. And I worked as a PA, production assistant a lot of times. And just kind of try more towards camera, as years went on. So, I started working as an assistant cameraman. And then in 1986, I got, a lucky gig and I got on Pee Wee's Playhouse and that was the first season of that. So that opened a lot of doors too. And then from there, I went on to other things. So.
Yeah, Pee Wee's Playhouse. If some of our audience, all right,
Probably
rephrase.
too young.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if some of our audience doesn't know, it's worth Googling. I mean, the show was awesome. It definitely broke ground all over the place. And I mean, Alex and I have had conversations about, it was a fun gig.
Yeah, totally. It was a great time. I know a lot of people in the business who were like, it was one of the high points of their career. Same for me. I mean, I've been in the business like 42 years now, and it's still one of the high points of my career. So,
That's awesome. That is awesome. So let's go past that and let's talk a little bit about. So you've had experiences. I mean, I heard lighting, I heard film, I heard television, I heard, and these are all camera, even the
mhm.
still and video. Which one of behind the lens or through the lens is more your natural place to be? Is it lighting?
I
Is
think
it that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. I think lighting is probably more. It's really more where the art is. I mean, I like shooting, but I could just as easily let somebody else be a camera operator and just control lighting. It's kind of really where the art of the art is there.
Explain that a
Everything you
little bit
see,
because people
everything you
don't
see is light.
explain lighting, explain the creativity and the art of lighting. Why is that creative?
Well, like I just said, literally everything you see is light. Everything you perceive visually comes through your eyes. So without light, you don't see anything. So it's being able to control that is it's a very powerful feeling in a way, but it's so creative because there are so many ways you can light something. I mean, high key, low key. You could go rim lights, full key lights. I mean, flat light things. There's just so many different ways you can present something with lighting. So, for me, it's just the most fun out of all of it. I think.
You and I were talking before we went on the air, and one of the things that I've been doing is because I've been working with a lot of students at universities, and their scope of what the industry is very limited. I mean, it's three basic things: the director, actor, and screenplay writers, which we know to be three of the hardest and three of the
Mm-hmm.
minimalist. There's so many other creative. And I was talking to them about lighting, and I talked to them about the two things: was lighting and sound that usually get no attention at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you're the lighting designer, you have to tell the same story that the screenplay writer wrote. You have to bring that to life. You have to all the
Mm-hmm.
emotions that are in the dialogue have to be told with the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's telling that person how to do that. So it's enormously creative, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you're attesting to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it can also be part of the production design too. I mean, it depends on how much budget the film has. I mean, if it's a big feature film, all of that stuff was discussed, like way back at the beginning before they ever got on set. So, the overall look of things, the style of lighting, as opposed to just lighting up every room. You want to kind of match things scene to scene. I mean, it's when you do a final edit on a film that you sit with a colorist and you basically go for every scene you try to match it so it all flows together. It's not just like disparate jumps from one lighting situation to the next. I mean, you can do that for effect, but basically you want to see the whole palette of your movie with like every scene, and it's all kind of similar, so it just kind of doesn't disturb your eye when it goes from one shot to the next, and it kind of all makes sense and aids for what they call the suspension of disbelief. So you kind of follow along like you're really watching something as opposed to just watching people act.
What are some of those title differences? There's lighting designers, there's lighters, there's grips. Give me what some of those disciplines are responsible for, both in a big feature and something small.
Well, lighting director is more of like a television term. Like it would be, you might have a show where it's like a video crew or something like that, and you might have several operators, and then the one guy who's responsible for the lighting is the lighting director. Like on a film set, though, it would be more like the director of photography who's responsible for that. So he would be the guy who makes the choices, and then he has a gaffer and a best boy and a team of electricians who actually execute it and actually move the lights around. And the gaffer might have some input as well. I mean, the guy that I work for, he's a big Hollywood gaffer, and he's like DPs as well. So a lot of times the gaffer will have a lot of input on that, especially if they have a lot more experience than the cameraman or the director of photography. And lighting designer, it's kind of more of like a theater term
Mm.
because there's not so much camera involved. So it's like overall design of the show from a theatrical perspective, because everything has to be rigged in in the grid and in rafters and stuff. So it's a more inclusive type of thing. It's like a show that takes place within a short period of time. So you kind of need a designer to do that. But like production design will also border on lighting too, because a lot of times the lighting will be built into the set, like on Star Trek movies and science fiction films. They always, kind of have a lot of lighting that's actually built right into it. So
Wow.
it's a very different kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've been in this 30 more years than I want to think about and been around everything. And I learned just listening to you right now. I'm like, oh, okay. That's very different. Film's something I haven't been around intimately. But I am, as we all do, I just watch the art. Even when I'm watching a film, when I'm supposed to be enjoying the film, I can't help but breaking down components. And I'm listening for things. I'm looking at things. I'm watching how this was done, why that's done. And one of the things, as you were talking, I was thinking about what fascinates me is, big films that are shot on location. I just went through Yellowstone. I finally got a chance to go through that whole thing. But there was the thing that awed me is I'm looking at these huge vistas. And then when they come down to a porch scene, and then that porch scene carries into the house, I know that's not one day. I know that's not all the same lighting. I know that's not, but yet it looks like it is. I mean, it could be cloudy and raining, and inside the house it looks like the same scene that was outside the house. That looks like the same scene that was in the mountains.
Yeah, that's continuity. It's important that you maintain that from one scene to the next, especially if you're shooting on multiple days. So yeah, there's a lot of people involved in that too. A lot more than just the lighting people. There are continuity people who look at it and determine what will match. You might do that porch scene on location, and then the interior is all in the studio.
Right.
That happens a lot of times too. Or the entire scene might be virtual. That could a big thing now is virtual production, where they have a full 360 wraparound video screen, like a LED or LCD screen, and the whole background scene plays out on that, on that screen, and the characters can interact with it because they're really there, sort of in a way,
Yeah, that part of it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I watched that whole.
Disney.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Well. Yeah.
I was just going to say that Lucas just killed it. It was amazing. You can't tell it apart at all. So let's talk about career movement a little bit. You have a nephew, I think you mentioned to me. You have a nephew that's in the business, or somebody in your family.
Yeah, my nephew, he's just starting to get into it. He graduated from Five Towns College and did a short film, and he won like a couple of awards for it. So he's well on his way. So
tell me, when you talk to him, do you give him some advice, some insights other than run away? Go get your MBA.
We talk about the looks and things like that, and what jobs you could do and stuff. So he's still very new to the business, so he really is getting out there on his own and doing a lot of stuff. He's been working freelance on productions and stuff and getting paid. So he's kind of doing it himself. So I don't really have to watch him too much. So I just kind of guide him whenever he needs it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun watching him get into it.
It is, right? I mean, it's as far as we are from those days, it really is intriguing to see, it hasn't changed all that much trying to get in. And then it's like, I guess knowing the success end of it, where we're at, you can fondly look back and say, man, those were fun. Those battles were awesome. I guess if things didn't really pan out well, they wouldn't be as awesome as we look back at it. What was like your biggest recommendation to somebody, say just coming out of school, maybe they got a year or two under their belt and they're trying to find their way? What would be the two corners? So give me 2 points that you say they should chase.
I'd say one thing is try and get work as a production assistant, so you can get on set. You don't have a ton of responsibility, so you can kind of watch and see what's going on. The other good avenue would be to find an internship at a studio or a production company where you have a little more responsibility and you can kind of watch things as well and be a part of them. So I think those are two good routes when you're first starting in the business. Or, being production assistant and intern, those are great positions to start with.
And how do you get those? Do you just go knock on doors, or?
You can knock on doors, but you can also find listings. Indeed, LinkedIn, places like that, they advertise for things like that. Sometimes schools, if you went to film school, they have placement. You can, check on things like that. But basically, you have to kind of do the legwork yourself a little bit. You have to kind of see what's out there. You might see a shoot going on the street and stop and talk to people. I mean, it's, sometimes it's as simple as that. It's just, meeting people who are doing it and saying, hey, how do I get to do this too?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big, that's one of the things I profess a lot of is if you're in big cities, or even if you're not, and if you see a film shoot, you see trucks, go over. If you see a lot of trailers parked somewhere that they shouldn't belong, 90%, there's something going on. Go over and talk to people, don't bother them while they're working because they're not going to talk to you. But yeah, go that. And the other thing, if you go to a theater, if you go to a concert, if you go to something, on your way out, stop and talk to the guy sitting by the boards or the girl sitting by the boards. You don't know. I mean, because nobody talks to them. Yeah. So they're more than willing to help. You're not going to stop their strike, but they're going to talk.
Right. Yeah, totally. I mean, I find people were always very approachable in the business when I started talking to them and, try to find things out, try to find work and whatever. People will talk to you and give you advice if they know you're interested in it and you're serious.
Is there a region of the country that's a little bit more, you can get through quicker?
Wow, production is really like all over the country these days. It's hard to say there's any one point anywhere. It used to just be Los Angeles and then New York, and now you've got Atlanta, you've got New Orleans, you've got further out west like Oregon, all these different places, Chicago, where there's big production markets and things are actually happening. Even the Southwest, like Albuquerque, there's still shows going on down there. I mean, it was Breaking Bad, that was like their main location. So a lot of places where they do these location shoots, they then start to get more and more production as people go, okay, this is a great place to work. We can, there are people here we can hire, and it's an easy place. It's not expensive. So Atlanta has like really taken off in the past few years. We just opened a shop down there as well. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and you got to be willing to travel. I mean, that becomes a little hard when you start having families or you're thinking about that. This is where our industry gets a little dicey because you're on the road. I mean, music side of it, I have friends that are on tours. You're gone 6-7 months, you're back. You go on a film shoot, you're gone. A feature, you're gone. You come back. Even, sports, television. My son's never around. And, he's a robotics operator for tons and tons of specialty cameras, but he's on the road constantly. So that you have to kind of filter that into what do you really want to do with it, and how far do you want to take it. And what about like the corporate world? Have you ever dabbled in corporate production at all?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of that with when I worked for Metrovision. It was kind of their mainstay. We used to do Citibank corporate meetings, and I was in the World Trade Center probably several times a summer that it came down, doing Solomon Smith Barney, Saks, and all these different financial companies because they shoot a lot of videos. I also filled in for a lighting director on NBC or CNBC, and I used to do Business Center from the trading floor of the stock exchange, like right after they closed. And I would also do Market Week on Fridays with Maria Bartiromo. So it was like literally the stock market would close, and I would come in a few minutes later, and we'd have guys bring everything up from the basement and assemble the set on the trading floor, and we'd tweak the lights, and then we'd go live at 6 to 7, and sometimes 7 to 7:30 on a Friday, and it was all live TV. So it's crazy. Yeah.
You'd build the whole set.
Really corporate, but I mean it's more the financial end of things. But we do the same type of things with financial companies and things like that. Citibank, like I said, they do a lot of video.
Wow, and that's a niche, right? That would be a place to. because
yeah,
it's
it's all
not you
multi-camera stuff. Yeah.
right, and you're not talking about you're going to go in doing a corporate shoot and you're not going to meet anybody in the industry. It's all the same people. Everybody's kind of moving around, right? So the connection
Mm-hmm.
level, it's
Oh yeah.
worth stepping into it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You'd be surprised who you'll meet, on like a corporate shoot who's, also a big shooter and doing, more narrative type things. There are a few that I know that I've seen in like all
Wow.
areas of production. Yeah.
Let's talk about skills. And we were talking earlier about lighting, but technology races forward. All of us
Mm-hmm.
spend most of our
Mm-hmm.
time trying to keep up with the new tech.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about discovering new tech and then learning how to not just turn it on, but use it creatively? And is it of any value? Do I need it just because it's new?
Mm-hmm. I've always been kind of like on the cutting edge of like technology and stuff like that. I've always been interested. I'm in the virtual world. I'm in the metaverse as they call it now, but I was doing this like, 10, 15 years ago when it was first starting. So I've always kind of watched the cutting edge of things. And so now I'm in a place where, uh, all these lights are new. It's all new technology, and I'm seeing things as they first come out. I'm getting to test demos when they're first out on the market. So that's kind of how I keep up with it, and I just kind of see what's new. I mean, I'm always hearing about something new. I watch the news. I watch technology in general, and just kind of keep up with it. It's not easy. I'm I call myself a technomancer, where I can kind of adopt new technologies very easily and work with them as a I forget what they call it, like a new adopter or something like that, early adopter of technology. I can start because I've seen most of it develop. I've seen like cell phones go from like this big to this big. So over the years, I've seen it all change. So that's kind of how I've kept up with it. Just kept an interest in it.
That's a interesting point you just brought up, because when you're talking about these things,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the world now shoots with these.
I know.
You're talking about kids 7, 8 years old are putting together
Mm-hmm.
videos. Do
Yeah.
you see that as something that will explode when they get older, or is it just going to become like my dad running around with a Super 8 with a big light rig on top of his camera?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's the next technology. Who knows what it's going to be? Maybe it'll all be in your head. You don't have to shoot anything. It's just, I mean, I've been playing around with these AI art generators. That's like the newest thing now that people are messing around with. Some people calling it theft and all these different things. But it's really an interesting way to mess around with things. And you can make movies with that too. Somebody just made a full feature film with just an AI doing the shots, So who knows where it'll go from here? You just kind of got to keep an eye on it and just see what's up. And technology has a way of like fading out when it's no longer being used, and so that's kind of where things go with like film and video and stuff. Now it's all digital. They don't even call it video anymore because it's just it's digital information. It's not even like on a tape. It's on a hard drive. So
Yeah.
it's a whole different
I
world.
get so confused because I have clients who are like, when we get hired, we're like, well, this is digital. We're really shooting everything we want digital, but they don't mean the technical side of it. They mean it's going into social. So when they're talking about it, and I try to explain to them, as far as I'm concerned, it's content. It's only content. I don't care how you capture it. I don't care what you do with it. When I'm done, you could take it and throw it in the garbage. It doesn't matter to me how it gets distributed. I have to do it this way. And that's what I was just going to ask you. Cameras and especially those two things, cameras and audio, made a huge switch about 15, 20 years ago. And cameras have continued to move in a very strange direction because everything is nested deep inside something. I don't see regular broadcast cameras anywhere. And I'm deep in still in broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. The lenses are the same. That's about it.
Right.
Those huge Fujinon lenses, and then it's got something different on the back of it.
Yeah. But
it's still a
that becomes a problem though, because if you're dealing with, and a lot of times I'm in situations where I can't hire my crew. I have to hire a crew that's given to me, but I'm shooting with DSLRs and, we've got the lenses, but these guys, that's not them. They don't really know the DSLR. They're gonna have a hard time loading an SD card in. And, and especially when I'm directing, one of the things we just did was a Broadway show. And when I wasn't allowed to use my guys, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This thing's moving at high speed. There's lightings going berserk, and I'm yelling, iris down, iris down, iris down, camera 2, iris down. You're way hot, way hot, way hot. And I'm watching the thing just explode. And he went into some strobing mode on there because he's just pushing buttons.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but that's not, like we said, that's not keeping up.
Engineer in the studio control and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. You'd want to. I wish that was the case. I wish I had a truck. But the second half of our industry now is budget.
Right.
Because you can do stuff inexpensively. I had a digital switcher that we just HMI'd together to the cameras. And it's cool, but now the director is, your video op, your directors, you're doing all the same stuff constantly. And even your audio feed's coming from a console, but it's still hitting your board. And those are way out of what I ever thought I'd be doing. Mm-hmm. But you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, it's different. It's you just gotta go with the flow. It's especially with cameras, if you're not sure. I mean, I'm shooting a lot of tabletop photography right now at work, and we're doing all pictures of our LED lights that we rent, so I've got like this plexiglass sheet in the background and I'm lighting things and shooting them, but I'm also shooting it with my boss's Black Magic, which I've never used one before. So it's, it's a DSLR, but it'll also shoot video. And so I'm just getting used to shooting in RAW form now, which is just like the strangest thing, seeing like false colors and stuff like that. It's just, it's a new thing for me, but I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, that was funny. The first
something so fully that you can just adjust everything and every aspect of it in post, even the shadows, So it's just
right.
Yes,
it's great it's great if you understand the technology, and it's horrific if you don't. Because my first exposure years ago to RAW, I didn't even know what RAW meant. And when I got the footage and I'm sitting in an edit and this thing was like flat, no color. Yeah. And I was like, what happened? I can't use this.
Look in post. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And and the file sizes were ginormous. Mm-hmm. I was so confused. And the editor that I was working with also didn't understand. And then when we worked our way backwards through the pipe and came back and said, somebody explain this. We're supposed to really know what the hell we're doing. And they were young guys. They were like, well, it's RAW. And then, now I've gotten accustomed to it, but it is a challenge.
You have to create a look with it. It's funny. Aeroflex has an app that they have for their Alexa and their digital cameras. Is basically a look creator. So when you get that raw image, you can then tweak it in the app and create a look and then lock that look in, and then everything you shoot will have that look, or you can then convert it all to that look later. So there's a lot of ways to mess around with it where you can actually play with it on set and determine what you want it to look like, while you're there shooting it, as opposed to later on in the editing room.
They steal the app from TikTok?
No, this is out for TikTok. TikTok is about to get banned like all over the place. Only government agencies are banning it because the Chinese own it. So it's, they're worried about stealing information from people and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of late. Cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Well, good for you guys catching up.
Yeah.
Alex, this has been awesome. You've been an invaluable help. Hopefully we can continue to have conversations. Your career just keeps moving and moving and moving, and you're touching on everything. You mentioned 100 things that I wanted to do deep dives on about 50 of them, and I just knew I didn't have the time to do that. So I may circle back and,
sure.
We'll pick a couple of subjects and just dig into that. If you're ever interested in doing coursework with us, that's another thing that we started doing a lot of. It's very informal, the way we're doing it.
Mhm.
because we're doing it this, but we actually come in with a full-blown curriculum. And, we do, 15 courses, and we're going to have a conversation about this and then add in all the other stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, and
Yeah,
it's also
sure.
a payday, so
Oh, definitely.
it's
There's money involved in there.
okay. All right, brother, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for
You too.
sharing with us.
Thanks for
Ciao.
having me. All right, take care.